Hey guys, tonight we begin with the brutal, unrelenting world of the Roman slave. A life where you're not a person but property, where every breath is owned, every movement controlled, and every day is a masterclass in suffering. Forget the glamorous toga parties and epic battles Hollywood sold you. The truth, you wouldn't last an hour in the sandals of a Roman slave. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just been captured and are now property in ancient Rome. The world explodes into chaos. One moment you're breathing the familiar air of your village, maybe in Gaul, Thrace, or some coastal town in Greece. The sun is warm on your skin, children are laughing somewhere in the distance, and the scent of baking bread or simmering stew hangs in the air. It's a normal day. Then the screams start. Not human screams at first, the terrified shrieks of animals, the crash of pottery, the thick, acrid smell of smoke as your home is torched. Roman soldiers pour into your settlement like a wave of iron and leather. Their armor clanks with a rhythmic, menacing precision. Their shields are splattered with mud and something darker. You can hear the guttural Latin commands, words you don't understand but whose meaning is clear. Submit or die. You try to run, but a heavy net weighted with lead balls tangles around your legs, pulling you face first into the dirt. The taste of soil and your own blood fills your mouth. Rough hands grab you, yanking you upright. A soldier's face, streaked with sweat and grime, sneers at you. He doesn't see a person, he sees a commodity. Your wrists are bound with coarse rope that bites into your skin. And you're shoved into a growing line of captives, your neighbors, your family, all now just inventory. This isn't a battle, it's a harvest. And you're the crop. The journey begins immediately. No goodbyes, no last looks at the life you knew. You're forced into a chain gang, iron cuffs clamped around your ankles, connected by heavy links that clank with every step. The sound is constant. A metallic heartbeat marking your descent into hell. You march for days, weeks, maybe months. The road is brutal. Jagged stones under your bare feet, dust coating your throat, the sun beating down until your vision blurs. At night, you're herded into makeshift pens, little more than dirt enclosures, with a few guards leaning on spears, laughing and passing a wineskin. You sleep on the ground, curled against the cold, the chains digging into your flesh. Dreams are fleeting, haunted by memories of freedom. You wake to a kick or a splash of water if you're lucky. Food is a handful of moldy grain or a crust of hard bread, tossed at you like you're a dog. You eat it anyway because starvation is a slower, more agonizing master. Thirst is a constant companion. When you're given water, it's from a shared bucket, often muddy and warm. You learn to drink quickly, greedily, before it's taken away. Dysentery spreads through the group. People weaken, stumble, and if they can't keep up, a soldier simply cuts them from the chain and leaves them by the roadside. No burial, no ceremony, just a body for the crows. You learn your first lesson in Roman efficiency. Anything that slows the profit must be discarded. As you trudge onward, the landscape changes. Lush green hills give way to arid plains, then to the bustling outskirts of a city. The air thickens with new smells. Not the clean scent of pine or sea, but the stench of humanity packed too tightly. Sewage, sweat, roasting meat from street vendors, the tang of animal dung from passing carts. The sounds are overwhelming, merchants shouting prices, the clatter of wheels on cobblestones, the distant roar of a crowd from an amphitheater. You're marched through narrow streets, past citizens in clean tunics who glance at you with mild curiosity, or outright disdain. Children point and laugh. You're a spectacle, a living warning. Your body aches from the march. Your feet are raw and bleeding. Your clothes are rags caked in filth. But the physical pain is nothing compared to the psychological unraveling. You're no longer a farmer, a parent, a craftsman. You're a thing, a piece of moving flesh with a price tag waiting to be assigned. The chain gang eventually halts in a large walled compound. This is the slave market. The air here is thick with fear and despair. You're shoved into a crowded cell, bodies pressed together so tightly you can feel the tremors of the person next to you. The door slams shut and the bolt slides home with a final chilling thud. This is your new reality. There is no escape. There is only what comes next. The cell is dark, damp, and reeks of unwashed bodies, vomit and hopelessness. You find a spot against a cold stone wall, sliding down until you're sitting on the filthy straw covering the floor. It's alive with vermin. You feel the skitter of insects over your legs, the occasional bite of a flea. There's no privacy, no dignity. People relieve themselves in a corner bucket that overflows quickly, adding to the suffocating odor. You try to sleep, but it's impossible. The sounds are a symphony of misery, low moans, quiet sobbing, the rattling cough of someone sick with fever. Through a small barred window high on the wall, you can hear the city alive and indifferent. Music from a tavern, the clink of coins, laughter. It's a cruel reminder of the world that has stolen yours. Hours blur into days. You're given just enough food and water to keep you alive, barely. A thin, watery gruel is slopped into a wooden bowl once a day. You eat with your hands, too hungry to care about the taste or the grime under your nails. Your body weakens, your muscles atrophy from disuse. You're being broken down, prepared for sale. The guards occasionally enter to inspect the merchandise. They grab your chin, force your mouth open to check your teeth like you're a horse. They pinch your arms to assess muscle, turn you around to look for scars or defects. You learn to stand still, eyes downcast. Any resistance, a flinch or a defiant look, earns a sharp blow from a club or a whip. The pain is instant, blinding. You learn your second lesson. Obedience is the only currency you have left. One morning, the cell door creaks open and sunlight floods in, making you wince. Guards bark orders, herding you out into a courtyard. You're lined up and hosed down with cold, dirty water. It's the first bath you've had in weeks, and it's more about presentation than hygiene. You're still wet and shivering when you're given a crude tunic to wear, a rough, scratchy garment that does little to warm you. Then you're led out into the market proper. The noise hits you like a physical force. It's a cacophony of shouting auctioneers, haggling buyers, and the clinking of money. The air is thick with dust and the smell of sweat, perfume, and animal sacrifice from a nearby temple. You're standing on a raised platform, exposed to hundreds of staring eyes. A placard is hung around your neck, listing your origin, age, and any skills you might have, or that the slaver has invented. You're poked, prodded, and examined by potential buyers. A wealthy Roman matron lifts the hem of your tunic to check your legs. A merchant forces you to lift heavy stones to demonstrate your strength. Another makes you repeat phrases in Latin to test your intelligence. You feel like livestock, which is exactly what you are. The auctioneer's voice is a rapid-fire drone, rattling off numbers. You don't understand the currency, but you understand the escalating bids. Finally, a gavel slams down. A man in a pristine toga points at you. It's done. You've been sold. The chains are transferred to your new owner's guard. You're pulled off the platform and led away without a backward glance. The capture is over. The ownership has just begun, and the worst is yet to come. Continuing on from the crushing despair of your capture, you now find yourself at the very heart of the Roman machine of human commerce. The chain that binds your ankles is no longer connected to a marching column, but to a cold iron ring set in the stone floor of a holding pen. This is the slave market, And here you will be priced, packaged and sold like a side of beef or a piece of furniture. The platform you stand on is worn smooth by thousands of bare, terrified feet. The wood is stained with things you'd rather not think about. Under your feet, you can feel the vibrations of the crowd, a low, buzzing hum of greed and casual cruelty. The auctioneer, a man with a voice like grinding gravel, has already started his chant. He doesn't look at you as a person. He looks at you as a list of attributes. He's selling your muscles, your teeth, your years of potential labor, your ability to understand simple commands. You are a collection of parts with a value. To your left, a young woman from your village is sobbing quietly, her shoulders shaking. The auctioneer barks at her to stop, slapping a short rod against his palm. It devalues the merchandise, he snaps to a potential buyer. The buyer, a fat man in an impossibly white toga, nods in agreement, nibbling on a date. He points at the girl, then at you. You look down, trying to make yourself small, invisible. It doesn't work. A hand grabs your jaw, forcing your head up. It's the market's medicus, a physician of sorts whose job is to assess the stock. His fingers are cold and impersonal. "Open," he commands in broken Greek. You open your mouth. He peers inside, checking your teeth like you're a horse. "Good teeth, few cavities, age, mid-20s, he calls out to the scribe nearby. The scribe scrawls on a wax tablet. The medicus then pinches the muscle on your arm, feels your ribs, listens to your chest with his ear pressed against your back. He's checking for wheezing, for the telltale rattle of lung disease. He forces you to turn around, his eyes scanning for scars, sores, signs of weakness or previous punishment. A clean back is a good sign. A scarred back means you're rebellious, difficult. It lowers your price. You hold your breath, praying you pass. He grunts, seemingly satisfied, and moves on. A small lead tag is tied around your wrist with a coarse string. It has a number on it. This is your new name. You are now Lot 47. The auctioneer's spiel is a rapid-fire performance of half-truths and exaggerated praise. He's a master of this grim theatre. Now here, noble citizens of Rome, a prime specimen from the wilds of Gaul. Strong back, good for the fields or the quarries. Look at those shoulders. He can carry a full amphora without breaking a sweat. Look, he understands basic commands. He's healthy, robust, and has a docile temperament. The word docile hangs in the air. You feel anything but docile. You feel a boiling, primal fear that makes you want to scream and run. But you stand still. You've learned that lesson. The bidding starts. Voices call out numbers from the crowd. Sesterti. You don't understand the value, but you understand the escalating energy. It's a game to them. A fat merchant raises a finger. A matron with severe hair and a sharp chin nods almost imperceptibly. The auctioneer plays them off each other. I have 50 from the lady in violet. Do I hear 55? 55 from the gentleman from Ostia. 55 going once. The lady, 60. She bids 60. A wise investment for a strong back. The gavel slams down. Sold to the Lady Octavia. A guard grabs your chain and leads you off the platform. You don't look at your new owner. You can't. But not all sales are so straightforward. This market has tiers, a brutal hierarchy of misery. You witness the fate of others, and it makes your own seem almost merciful. The skilled slaves, the scribes, tutors, musicians, are sold in a separate, slightly cleaner area. They get to demonstrate their talents. A Greek tutor is forced to recite Homer. A scribe writes a line of verse. They stand a little straighter, but the fear in their eyes is the same. Their price is higher, but their fate is just as uncertain. Then there are the delicati, the beautiful young boys and girls chosen for their looks. They are oiled and perfumed, dressed in fine, almost transparent silks. They are paraded before a different kind of buyer, lecherous old men and wealthy women with hungry eyes. Their inspection is even more invasive, more humiliating. They are poked and prodded in ways that make you feel sick. You see one girl, no older than 14, staring into the middle distance, her face a perfect, terrifying mask. She has already left her body. That is how she survives. The worst is the sale of the damnati, the condemned. These aren't just slaves. They are criminals, prisoners of war destined for the games or the mines. They are sold in lots, like firewood. 20 strong backs for the quarries of Sardinia, the auctioneer yells, gesturing to a group of chained men whose spirits are already broken. Guaranteed to last 6 months. There is no pretense here. They are being sold to die. The buyers here are hard-faced men representing mining corporations or gladiatorial schools. They look at the damnati with the cold calculation of an engineer assessing building materials. The bidding is quick, brutal. The men are hauled away, their fate sealed. You watch them go, and a chilling thought enters your mind. Your fate is only marginally better. You have been sold to a household. You will be a domestic slave. You will have a roof, however leaky. You will have food, however meager, but you are still property. Your body is not your own. Your time is not your own. Your life is not your own. The market isn't just a place of sale. It's a factory that dismantles human souls and reassembles them into tools. And you, Lot 47, are now a newly assembled tool ready to be put to use. The clanking of your chain as you're led away from the platform is the sound of your old life finally, irrevocably dying. The sale is complete. The gavel's echo faded, but the process of unmaking you is only beginning. Led away from the shouting chaos of the market, you are now taken to a quiet, terrifyingly efficient back room. This is where the final, indelible mark of ownership is applied. The theoretical becomes physical. You are about to be branded. The room is small, hot, and smells of smoke, seared flesh, and fear. It's a smell that clings to the back of your throat, a perfume of absolute subjugation. In the center, a brazier glows with a fierce orange heat. A man, not a doctor, but a brandator, a specialist in this grim art, pulls a metal rod from the coals. The end of it is not a point, but a symbol. Perhaps it's the initials of your new owner, T.O. for Titus Octavius. Perhaps it's a simple cross or a other mark unique to his household. It glows a dull, cherry red. The guard who led you here shoves you forward, forcing you to your knees. He pulls your tunic down, exposing your shoulder blade. The brandator approaches. There is no conversation, no warning. This is a transaction as routine as stamping a shipment of amphorae. The heat from the iron radiates against your skin a full second before it touches you. You instinctively flinch, but the guard's grip is like iron itself. Then it makes contact. The pain is not sharp, like a cut. It is deep, profound, and overwhelming. It's a sizzling, cracking sound that you feel more than hear, a sensation of your very flesh being rewritten. The smell is nauseatingly specific, burning skin and hair, a scent you will never forget. You might scream. You probably do. The sound is swallowed by the thick stone walls. The brandator holds the iron steady for a count of 3, his face a mask of bored concentration. This is his job. You are his canvas. When he pulls it away, the pain doesn't stop. It blooms into a throbbing, white-hot agony that consumes your entire upper body. The guard releases you, and you slump to the cold stone floor, gasping, tears of pain and humiliation streaming down your face. You are now physically permanently marked. You are branded stock. That smouldering, raw symbol on your shoulder is a message to the world. I am owned. Do not question it. But the branding is just the visible part. The real ownership is etched into Roman law, a system designed to make your status as property absolute and inescapable. You are now legally res, a thing. You have no personal rights. You cannot own property. You cannot enter into a legal contract. You cannot marry. Any family you might have or create has no legal standing. Your children are the property of your master, who can sell them the day they are born. You cannot testify in court except under torture, because your word, untortured, is considered inherently unreliable. You are a walking, talking tool. If someone injures you, your master sues them for damaging his property the same way he would sue if they broke his cart. The compensation is for his loss, not your suffering. Your new owner, the Lady Octavia, now holds absolute power over you, the Dominica Potestas. This power of life and death, vitae necisque potestas, means she can have you beaten, tortured or killed for any reason, or for no reason at all. Sure, there were laws in later periods against randomly killing a valuable slave without reason, but enforcement was spotty, and the definition of reason was wonderfully flexible. Were you too slow fetching her water? That's insolence. Did you look her in the eye for a moment too long? That's a threat. Did the soup taste slightly off? Clearly, you're trying to poison her. Any of these are justifications for brutal punishment. Your life is worth less than the fine china on her table. If that plate breaks, it's a financial loss. If you break, well, there's always more where you came from. You are led from the branding room to your new home, the domus of Lady Octavia. It's not a farm, it's a city house, a place of supposed refinement. But for you, it's just a different kind of prison. You are taken to the ergastulum, the slave quarters. It's a dank, basement-level room with bare stone walls and a floor of packed earth. There are no windows, just a small grating near the ceiling that lets in a sliver of light and air. The room is shared with other household slaves, a cook, a cleaner, a personal attendant, a doorman. They look at you with a hollow exhaustion you don't yet understand. This is your barracks. Your bed is a thin straw pallet on the floor, crawling with lice. You share a single coarse blanket. This is where you will retreat to when your day's labor is done, if it's ever done. The villicus, the slave overseer of the household, a man who was once where you are now, gives you the rules. His voice is flat, drained of all emotion. He speaks in a monotone recitation of your doom. You will rise before dawn. You will work until late after dusk. Your duties are everything and anything you are ordered to do. You will fetch water from the public fountain, carrying heavy jars on your head for miles. You will clean the latrines, scrubbing away the waste of the family with a sponge and vinegar. You will sweep the mosaics, dust the furniture, tend the small garden, act as a human fan, stand silently in a corner waiting for a command. You will eat only what you are given. The scrapings from the family's plates, a pulse of boiled beans or lentils, cheap fish sauce, and sour wine, watered down until it's barely tinted. You will speak only when spoken to. You will keep your eyes downcast. You will move with efficiency and silence. The brand on your shoulder is not just a mark. It is a key that locks you into this life. The law is the wall that surrounds you, and the overseer's monotone voice is the sound of your sentence being read. The capture was violent. The market was humiliating. But this quiet, legal and absolute ownership is where your soul is systematically dismantled. The chains are now invisible, and they are infinitely stronger. The relative shelter of the urban ergastulum was a fleeting illusion. Your brand has been deemed too valuable for household chores. Your strong back from Gaul is needed for a different purpose. You've been transferred, sold down the river, literally, to one of Lady Octavia's rural estates, a latifundia. The city's stench is replaced by the vast open-air prison of the countryside. Welcome to the fields. This is where Rome's bread is baked and slaves are the fuel. Your day doesn't begin at dawn. It begins in the pitch black, 2 hours before the sun even considers rising. A horn blares, a harsh metallic sound that tears you from whatever pathetic shred of sleep you manage to find. You sleep in a barracks, a long, low building that smells of damp earth, sweat and despair. You're chained to your stone bed for the night, a precaution against escape. The villicus, the farm overseer who is himself a slave but with a whip and a sliver of power, unlocks the manacles. Your body screams in protest. Every muscle is stiff. Every joint aches from yesterday's labor. You have minutes to eat. Breakfast is a single piece of coarse, gritty bread, so hard you could chip a tooth, and a cup of posca, watered-down vinegar wine that does little to quench your thirst. Then you're herded out into the cold, pre-dawn air. The scale of the latifundia is breathtaking, and not in a good way. It stretches to the horizon, a geometric nightmare of vineyards, olive groves, and wheat fields. You are one of hundreds, a tiny, insignificant part of a machine designed for one thing: production. Your first task is the vinea, the vineyard. The soil is heavy, packed clay. Your tool is a crude iron-shod spade. Your job is to dig, and dig, and dig. You dig new holes for vines, you trench for irrigation, you break up fallow ground. The spade is clumsy, the wood rough and splintered in your raw, blistered hands. With every thrust into the earth, a jolt of pain shoots up your arms. The sun rises, and with it, the heat. There is no shade. The sun is a merciless white-hot eye in a bleached sky. Sweat pours from you, stinging the fresh blisters on your back from yesterday's mistakes, mixing with the dust that coats your skin until you are a creature of mud and agony. The overseer rides past on a horse, his shadow a brief, cool relief. He doesn't look at you, he looks at your work. "Deeper!" he barks, his voice hoarse from shouting. "Faster!" His assistants, the monitors, walk the lines with whips. You don't have to be doing anything wrong to feel their sting. A slowed pace, a moment straightening your back to gasp for air, a stumble. Any of these is an excuse for a lash across the shoulders. The crack of the whip is a constant punctuation to the rhythm of grunting labor. You learn to work in a permanent, back-breaking stoop. You learn to ignore the pain, the thirst, the screaming protest of your muscles. To acknowledge it is to invite more punishment. By midday, you are a hollowed-out shell. The sun is directly overhead, baking the ground. The air shimmers with heat haze. You are allowed a short break. You collapse where you stand, too exhausted to move towards the water skin. When you do, the water is warm and tastes of leather. It does nothing to slake the deep cellular thirst that consumes you. Lunch is a handful of olives and the same hard bread, eaten without pleasure, purely for fuel. You have maybe 15 minutes. Then the horn sounds again. Back to work. The afternoon shifts to the grain fields. The wheat is tall, its golden color a lie that hides another kind of torture. Your tool now is a sickle. You must swing it in a precise rhythmic motion, cutting the stalks at the base. It's repetitive, mind-numbing work that blisters your hands in new places. The chaff from the wheat gets everywhere, in your eyes, your nose, your mouth. You breathe it in, it coats your lungs. You develop a persistent, hacking cough that you know will never go away. This is the pulvis, the dust that will slowly choke the life out of you over years, if you're lucky enough to live that long. Around you, other slaves follow, binding the sheaves. Children born into slavery here run through the fields, scaring off birds. Their lives are as predetermined as yours. This is all they will ever know. As the sun finally begins to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in colors you are too dead to appreciate, the horn blares one last time. The work is done, for now. You drop your tool, your hands so cramped you can barely uncurl them. You are marched back to the barracks in a shuffling, silent line of broken men and women. There is no conversation. There is no energy left for it. Supper is a thin, lukewarm pottage of boiled beans and onions. It's flavorless and never enough. You eat it from a wooden bowl with your hands, sitting on the ground outside the barracks. Then you are chained to your bed once more. The darkness is absolute, and the barrack is filled with the sounds of exhaustion, moans, coughs, the rattling breath of the sick. You don't wash. The grime of the day becomes the grime of the week, becomes the grime of your life. You fall into a dreamless, comatose sleep, knowing that in a few short hours the horn will blast, and it will all start again. There are no seasons here, only cycles of work. There is no future, only an endless grinding present. The field doesn't just consume your body, it devours your hope, day by dusty, sun-scorched day. The relative shelter of the urban ergastulum was a fleeting illusion. Your brand has been deemed too valuable for household chores. Your strong back from Gaul is needed for a different purpose. You've been transferred, sold down the river, literally, to one of Lady Octavia's rural estates, a latifundia. The city's stench is replaced by the vast, open-air prison of the countryside. Welcome to the fields. This is where Rome's bread is baked and slaves are the fuel. Your day doesn't begin at dawn. It begins in the pitch black, 2 hours before the sun even considers rising. A horn blares, a harsh metallic sound that tears you from whatever pathetic shred of sleep you manage to find. You sleep in a barracks, a long, low building that smells of damp earth, sweat and despair. You're chained to your stone bed for the night, a precaution against escape. The villicus, the farm overseer who is himself a slave but with a whip and a sliver of power, unlocks the manacles. Your body screams in protest. Every muscle is stiff. Every joint aches from yesterday's labor. You have minutes to eat. Breakfast is a single piece of coarse, gritty bread, so hard you could chip a tooth, and a cup of posca, watered-down vinegar wine that does little to quench your thirst. Then you're herded out into the cold, pre-dawn air. The scale of the latifundia is breathtaking, and not in a good way. It stretches to the horizon, a geometric nightmare of vineyards, olive groves and wheat fields. You are one of hundreds, a tiny, insignificant part of a machine designed for one thing: production. Your first task is the vinea, the vineyard. The soil is heavy, packed clay. Your tool is a crude iron-shod spade. Your job is to dig, and dig, and dig. You dig new holes for vines, you trench for irrigation, you break up fallow ground. The spade is clumsy, the wood rough and splintered in your raw, blistered hands. With every thrust into the earth, a jolt of pain shoots up your arms. The sun rises, and with it, the heat. There is no shade. The sun is a merciless white-hot eye in a bleached sky. Sweat pours from you, stinging the fresh blisters on your back from yesterday's mistakes, mixing with the dust that coats your skin until you are a creature of mud and agony. The overseer rides past on a horse, his shadow a brief, cool relief. He doesn't look at you. He looks at your work. "Deeper!" he barks, his voice hoarse from shouting. "Faster!" His assistants, the monitors, walk the lines with whips. You don't have to be doing anything wrong to feel their sting. A slowed pace, a moment straightening your back to gasp for air, a stumble. Any of these is an excuse for a lash across the shoulders. The crack of the whip is a constant punctuation to the rhythm of grunting labor. You learn to work in a permanent, back-breaking stoop. You learn to ignore the pain, the thirst, the screaming protest of your muscles. To acknowledge it is to invite more punishment. By midday, you are a hollowed-out shell. The sun is directly overhead, baking the ground. The air shimmers with heat haze. You are allowed a short break. You collapse where you stand, too exhausted to move towards the water skin. When you do, the water is warm and tastes of leather. It does nothing to slake the deep cellular thirst that consumes you. Lunch is a handful of olives and the same hard bread, eaten without pleasure, purely for fuel. You have maybe 15 minutes. Then the horn sounds again. Back to work. The afternoon shifts to the grain fields. The wheat is tall, its golden color a lie that hides another kind of torture. Your tool now is a sickle. You must swing it in a precise rhythmic motion, cutting the stalks at the base. It's repetitive, mind-numbing work that blisters your hands in new places. The chaff from the wheat gets everywhere, in your eyes, your nose, your mouth. You breathe it in, it coats your lungs. You develop a persistent hacking cough that you know will never go away. This is the pulvis, the dust that will slowly choke the life out of you over years, if you're lucky enough to live that long. Around you, other slaves follow, binding the sheaves. Children born into slavery here run through the fields scaring off birds. Their lives are as predetermined as yours. This is all they will ever know. As the sun finally begins to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in colors you are too dead to appreciate, the horn blares one last time. The work is done, for now. You drop your tool, your hands so cramped you can barely uncurl them. You are marched back to the barracks in a shuffling, silent line of broken men and women. There is no conversation. There is no energy left for it. Supper is a thin, lukewarm pottage of boiled beans and onions. It's flavorless and never enough. You eat it from a wooden bowl with your hands, sitting on the ground outside the barracks. Then you are chained to your bed once more. The darkness is absolute, and the barrack is filled with the sounds of exhaustion, moans, coughs, the rattling breath of the sick. You don't wash. The grime of the day becomes the grime of the week, becomes the grime of your life. You fall into a dreamless, comatose sleep, knowing that in a few short hours the horn will blast, and it will all start again. There are no seasons here, only cycles of work. There is no future, only an endless grinding present. The field doesn't just consume your body, it devours your hope, day by dusty, sun-scorched day. The mines were a naked, brutal death, the fields a slow, grinding consumption. But domestic servitude in a Roman household? This is a subtler, more psychological hell. You've been recalled from the latifundia, deemed presentable enough for the city again. You now serve in the townhouse of a wealthy merchant. The air smells of perfumed oil and baking bread, not sweat and dust. It's a trap. This is where they break your mind, not just your body. Your day begins in the absolute silence of pre-dawn. You sleep on a thin mat in a cramped closet off the kitchen, your body still aching with the memory of the fields. There is no horn here. The wake-up call is the sound of the cook, a grumpy Greek slave named Daphnis, slamming pots around as he prepares the family's breakfast. You have minutes to fold your mat, splash your face with cold water from a basin, and present yourself. Your first duty, empty the chamber pots. The entire household's overnight waste is collected in ceramic lasana. The smell is eye-watering, a pungent ammoniac blast that hits you the moment you open the bedroom doors. You carry the pots, careful not to spill a drop, down to the street to be emptied into the public cesspit. This is your morning meditation. After the pots, it's time to fetch water. You are given a large, heavy amphora. You join the line of other domestic slaves at the public fountain, a social hub for the owned. The gossip here is a currency of its own. You hear which master is having money troubles, which mistress is having an affair, which slave was beaten senseless for a minor infraction. You keep your head down, you say nothing. Filling the amphora is an art. Too full and you'll spill, too light and you'll have to make another trip. You hoist it onto your shoulder, the weight a familiar agony. The walk back to the house is a balancing act through crowded, filthy streets, trying not to jostle the citizens who would not hesitate to backhand you for staining their toga. Back at the house, the real work begins. You are a human multi-tool. One moment you are sweeping the intricate mosaic floors with a broom of twigs, dust rising in clouds to choke you. The next, you are polishing silverware with a special clay until it gleams, your reflection distorted in the curves of a ladle. Then you are fanning the mistress with a large ostrich feather plume as she reclines and reads, your arm burning with the effort of maintaining a steady, gentle breeze. You are invisible, or you are supposed to be. The family and their guests speak freely around you, discussing politics, finances, intimate matters. You are part of the furniture. But let your attention waver for a second. Let the fanning rhythm break, and you become visible in the worst way. A sharp word, a pinch, a reminder that you are there to serve, not to exist. The meals are a particular torture. You stand at the wall of the triclinium, the dining room, while the family and their guests recline on couches feasting. The smells are incredible. Roasted pork glazed with honey and cumin, sausages spiced with pepper, fresh fish baked in fig leaves, dates stuffed with nuts. The wine flows freely, mixed with water and snow brought down from the mountains at great expense. Your stomach growls, a traitorous sound you hope no one hears. Your own meal, when you finally get it, is the scrapings from their plates, a cold, congealed mush of different flavors that have merged into a single depressing taste. You eat it in the kitchen, standing up, in 2 minutes flat before the next task calls. The psychological warfare is constant. The lady of the house, Domitia, is capricious. Her moods swing like a gate in a hurricane. One day she is sweet, almost maternal, calling you dear boy and giving you a stale pastry. The next, she is a fury, screaming at you because a rose petal floated the wrong way in her bath. You never know which version you will get. You walk on eggshells made of glass. The master, Lucius, is colder. He assesses you with the same dispassionate eye he uses to assess a new shipment of goods. He expects perfection, silence, and anticipation of his needs. You must have his favorite wine mixed and ready before he asks. You must have his writing implements laid out precisely. A single misplaced stylus is a sign of stupidity, of disrespect. And then there are the other slaves. The household is a snake pit of hierarchies and alliances. The cook Daphnis holds power because of his irreplaceable skill. The Atriensis, the major domo, is a freedman who wields his authority with a tyrant's glee. The personal attendant to the master, a sly, pretty boy named Cyrus, uses his proximity to power to bully the rest of you. You are at the bottom. You are the new one. You are given the worst tasks, blamed for mishaps, and your food portions are accidentally smaller. There is no solidarity here. Only a desperate, clawing struggle to avoid being the one who gets punished today. You are always watching, always listening, your nerves stretched taut. The brand on your shoulder doesn't just mark you as property, it marks you as prey. The mine offered a definitive end. The fields offered the numbness of exhaustion. But the house? The house keeps you alert, terrified, and perpetually off balance. It doesn't want to destroy your body quickly. It wants to own your every thought, your every flinch, your very soul. And the truly terrifying part? It's working. The constant work and psychological tension of domestic life is bad enough, but it's the sheer, terrifying randomness of your existence that truly grinds you down. The master's whim is the weather of your life, and you are forever standing outside without a cloak. There is no law, no logic, no mercy, only whatever fleeting thought passes through the mind of the person who owns you. Your life is a coin toss, every single day. It begins with something small, something so trivial it barely registers as an event to them. You are carrying a tray of expensive honeyed dates into the triclinium for the master's guests. Your feet, sore and cracked from a day of fetching water, catch slightly on the edge of a rug. You stumble. For a heart-stopping second, the tray tilts. You manage to right it, but a single sticky date tumbles to the floor, rolling under a couch. No one sees it, no one except the master, Lucius. His eyes, cold and calculating, follow the date's path. He doesn't say anything. He simply looks at you, then back at his guest, and continues his conversation. The punishment is not immediate. That's the worst part. The anticipation is its own form of torture. You spend the rest of the evening waiting for the other shoe to drop, your hands trembling so badly you can barely hold the next tray. The punishment comes the next morning. No explanation is given. The major domo simply informs you your rations of wheat are halved for the week. The reason? The master was displeased. That's all you get. You will be faint with hunger for days because of a fallen date. But it's not just about mistakes, it's about mood. The mistress, Domitia, has had a bad day. The dye on the new wool she purchased wasn't the exact shade of violet she wanted. She's in a rage. She storms through the house, and you, unfortunately, are the one polishing a bronze statue in the atrium when she passes. You press yourself against the wall, trying to become invisible. It doesn't work. "You!" she shrieks, her voice like shattered glass. "You're breathing too loudly. Do you think I want to hear your wretched, rattling breath in my home? It's disgusting." You stop breathing for a second, which only makes it worse. She orders you to the courtyard. For the next hour you are made to stand perfectly still on one leg, like a stork. If you wobble, if you put your foot down, the overseer standing nearby strikes your standing leg with a cane. Your muscles scream in protest, burning, cramping. Tears of pain and humiliation stream down your face. She watches from a shaded portico, sipping wine, her anger slowly dissipating as your suffering entertains her. Your pain is her therapy. Then there are the whims that are just bizarre. The master decides, on a Tuesday, that he wants to hear a poem recited in the accent of your native Gaul. You are dragged from the kitchen, flour still on your hands, and made to stand in the center of his study. You haven't spoken your own language in years, not since the capture. The words feel foreign and clumsy in your mouth. He and his friends laugh uproariously at the sounds, throwing grapes at you when you mispronounce a word. You are a living novelty, a talking dog. Another time, the master's son, a bored teenager, decides it would be amusing to see if you can be trained to fetch a ball like a hound. He throws a wooden ball and you, knowing the alternative is a beating, crawl on your hands and knees to retrieve it. He laughs, his friends laugh. You die a little inside with every retrieve. Your humanity is not just stripped away, it's used as a plaything. The most dangerous whims are the silent ones. The master is in a contemplative mood, staring out a window. He watches you work in the garden, weeding a flower bed. He says nothing for a long time. His gaze is heavy. You can feel it on your back. What is he thinking? Is he considering selling you? Is he deciding to give you a reward that will only make the other slaves resent you? Is he just thinking? You have no idea. Your fate is a silent movie playing in a room you are not allowed to enter. Every action you take under that gaze is performed with hyper-awareness. Is this weed pulling satisfactory? Is my posture correct? Should I be working faster, slower? The pressure is immense, a psychological vice. This absolute arbitrary power corrupts everything. It means you can never relax. You can never feel safe. A good day means nothing, because a good day can be obliterated by a single bad thought in the master's head. There is no justice, only power. There is no cause and effect, only the unpredictable storm of his or her disposition. You live in a world without rules, where the only constant is your own vulnerability. The whip in the fields was predictable. The darkness of the mine was a known terror. But this is a special kind of hell. It's a game where the rules change without notice, and you are always losing. The master's whim is the true chains, and they are wrapped tightly around your mind forever. The master's whim is the spark, but Roman punishment is the full-blown inferno. When casual cruelty isn't enough, when a message needs to be sent to the entire household, the toolbox of terror comes out. This isn't just about inflicting pain, it's about spectacle, about carving the lesson of obedience into living flesh so no one ever forgets who holds the power. It starts with the whip, the flagellum. But this isn't the single lash from the fields. This is a formal public event. You are dragged into the courtyard, stripped naked, and your hands are tied to a post. The entire household is forced to watch. The Lararius, the slave in charge of punishments, uncoils the whip. It's a nasty, multi-thonged thing, often with pieces of bone or metal braided into the ends. The first strike is unlike anything you felt before. It doesn't just sting, it tears. It feels like a dozen red-hot knives slicing into your back simultaneously. You can't help but scream. The second strike lands before the pain from the first has even fully registered, overlapping the wounds. The third, the fourth. You lose count. Your world dissolves into a white-hot universe of agony. Your back becomes a raw, bloody map of your transgression. The sound is wet, meaty. The blood runs down your legs, pooling at your feet. You pass out. They revive you with a bucket of brine, water mixed with salt, thrown onto your wounds. The pain is so exquisite, so all-consuming, you vomit. Then the whipping continues. This is not just punishment. It's a surgical procedure to remove your dignity. For lesser but repeated offences, there's the pistrinum, the mill. This is where lazy or troublesome slaves are sent for re-education. It's a flour mill, powered not by animals but by human misery. You are chained to a massive wooden beam, the kind that would break a donkey's spirit, and you walk in circles forever, grinding grain. The air is thick with flour dust, coating your lungs, your eyes, your every pore. It's a white tomb. The labor is relentless, the noise deafening, the monotony a form of madness. You walk until your feet are raw stumps, until your mind goes numb, until you forget your own name. Slaves are sent here for weeks, months. Many don't come back. Those who do are broken, hollowed-out husks, their spirit ground finer than the flour they produced. Then there are the creative punishments. The Romans had a flair for the theatrical. Got caught stealing a sip of wine, you might be forced to wear a titulus, a sign around your neck detailing your crime, and be paraded through the house while the other slaves spit on you and call you a thief. Talked back to the master? You could be fitted with a scold's bridle, a metal cage for your head with a bit that presses down on your tongue, making it impossible to speak, to eat, sometimes even to swallow your own saliva. It's left on for days. You drool, you starve, you learn the price of a sharp tongue. For the ultimate crimes, attempted escape, theft of significant property, rebellion, the punishment is death. But not a quick one. A quick death is a mercy, and mercy has no place here. The preferred method is crucifixion. It's a public service announcement written in agony. You are stripped, beaten raw, and forced to carry the heavy horizontal beam of your own cross to the place of execution outside the city. The nails are heavy, square-shaped iron spikes. They don't cleanly pierce. They crush through the bones in your wrists and ankles. The pain is unimaginable. Then you are hoisted up and the real torture begins. Crucifixion is a slow-motion death by asphyxiation. To breathe, you have to push up on the nails in your feet, tearing the wounds wider, scraping against bone. Your body cramps, you dehydrate, you slowly suffocate over days, exposed to the elements and the taunts of passers-by. Your death is a days-long spectacle, designed to terrify every other slave who sees it. It's the master's final, absolute word. This is what happens when you forget your place. But perhaps the most psychologically devastating punishment is the simplest, the threat against others. You yourself might be able to endure pain, but can you endure causing it? You make a mistake, the master doesn't punish you. He punishes your friend, the old slave who taught you how to polish silver without leaving streaks. He is whipped in front of you because of your error. His screams are your fault. The guilt is a heavier chain than any iron. Or worse, you have managed to form a secret relationship, to have a child. The master discovers it. He doesn't touch you. He sells your child. One morning, they are just gone. Sold to a trader heading to the mines of Spain. You never see them again. You are left with nothing but the ghost of their memory and the crushing knowledge that your love was a death sentence for them. This punishment doesn't just break your body, it annihilates your heart. It teaches you that to care for anyone is to hand the master a weapon to use against you. In the end, the goal of all Roman discipline is the same: to make you a perfect, unthinking, unfeeling tool, a thing that works, obeys, and exists only to serve. And the most terrifying part, it works. Because after enough whippings, after enough time in the mill, after watching your friends suffer for your mistakes, you learn. You stop feeling. You stop hoping. You become the hollow shell they always wanted you to be, the perfect slave. After the lash and the mill, after the psychological torment, your body is a hollow vessel. It needs fuel. But sustenance for a Roman slave isn't about nourishment. It's about economics. You are given just enough calories to function, just enough to prevent total collapse, but never enough to thrive. Your hunger is a constant gnawing companion, a deliberate tool of control. The master's table groans under the weight of his feast. You smell it all. Roast boar stuffed with figs and myrtle berries, oysters brought live from the coast in saltwater tanks, dates from Judea, peaches from Persia. The air in the triclinium is thick with the scent of saffron, cumin, and frying fish sauce. You stand motionless by the wall, your stomach clenching so hard it feels like a fist. You watch as they recline, their fingers glistening with grease, their laughter fueled by fine Falernian wine. They eat until they are full, then they eat some more. Then they vomit in a special bowl, the vomitorium, to make room for the next course. The waste is spectacular. Whole platters of food are taken away, barely touched. This is the first stage of your torture, the spectacle of plenty, a world of flavor from which you are permanently excluded. Your turn comes later in the dark, cramped kitchen. The cook, Daphnis, hands you your cena, dinner. It's a wooden bowl of pulse. This is not the seasoned, enriched porridge of the Roman legions. This is a thick, glue-like sludge of emmer wheat or barley, boiled in water until it achieves the consistency of plaster. It is utterly flavorless. There is no salt, no oil, no herbs. Sometimes, if you're lucky, a few chopped bitter wild greens are stirred in, or on a truly grand day, a single sad anchovy might be floating in the gruel, its salty, fishy presence a fleeting miracle. This is your main meal. You eat it with your fingers, the warmth of the bowl the only comfort it provides. It sits in your stomach like a stone, heavy but unsatisfying. Your other rations are a study in calculated deprivation. You receive a monthly dimensum, an allowance of food. It consists of a few modii of low-quality wheat, some beans, lentils, cheap garum, fish sauce that's mostly salt, and fish guts, and a ration of sour wine, acetum, so sharp it has to be watered down to be palatable. The wheat is often weevil-infested. You learn to pick the tiny black beetles out before grinding it into flour for your bread. The bread itself is a dense, dark, crumbly brick, baked from the bran and chaff left over after the finer flour has been sifted for the master's table. It's so hard you have to soak it in your pulse or water to even chew it. It shreds the inside of your mouth. This is not food designed for health. It's food designed for subsistence. You are a machine, and this is the lowest grade fuel that will keep your pistons firing. The hunger never really goes away. It's a low-grade ache in your belly, a constant lightheadedness that makes the world swim if you stand up too fast. Your body begins to consume itself. Your ribs start to show. The muscles you built in the fields slowly wither, replaced by a stringy, fatigued leanness. You are always tired because your body is running on empty. This is by design. A well-fed slave is a strong slave. A strong slave might think about resistance. A hungry slave only thinks about the next bowl of pulse. Hunger is a chain that requires no iron. It makes you docile. It makes you desperate. It keeps you compliant. And then there is the thirst. In the fields or the mines, thirst was a raging fire. In the household, it's a slow, constant dehydration. You fetch water for everyone else, carrying heavy jars on your head, but your own access is limited. You get a few cups a day, maybe. In summer, it's a special kind of hell. You watch the family drink wine chilled with snow from the mountains, the condensation beading on their silver cups. Your own water is warm, often from a storage jar that's been sitting in the sun, and it tastes of clay. You learn to sip to make it last. Your lips are always chapped, your head always aches slightly. You are a plant that is perpetually just slightly underwatered. The final insult is the scavenging. You are so chronically underfed that you become an expert in the household's waste patterns. You know when the kitchen scraps are taken out. You learn to snatch a rind of cheese, a piece of bread crust, a vegetable peeling before the dogs get it. You compete with the other slaves for these scraps. It's humiliating, but your hunger overrides your pride. You eat things you would have once thrown away. The line between your diet and the pet's diet is blurry, and sometimes you're on the losing side of it. Your sustenance is not a meal, it's a calculation, a daily battle against your own body's needs, a battle you are designed to lose. The master doesn't just own your labor, he owns your hunger. And he uses it every single day to remind you that your most basic need is a privilege he can choose to grant or deny. The gnawing hunger in your belly is matched only by the constant grating discomfort on your skin. Your sustenance is calculated deprivation. Your clothing is engineered degradation. While the master's family drapes itself in fine white wool, Egyptian linen, and even shimmering Chinese silk, you are dressed in a manifesto of your own worthlessness. Your appearance is a uniform of subjugation designed to chafe, to humiliate, and to accelerate your body's decay. You own one garment. One. It's a tunica. A simple sleeveless shirt made of the coarsest, scratchiest wool imaginable. It's the color of mud, a dull, undyed brown that hides nothing. It was never fitted to you. It was pulled from a pile of identical rags and thrown your way. The weave is loose and uneven, offering little protection from the cold or the sun. It's too short, ending above your knees, and constantly rides up, forcing you to awkwardly pull it down. There are no undergarments. The rough wool grates directly against your skin, your genitals, the raw welts on your back from recent punishments. Within hours, you are covered in a rash of red, angry scratches. You itch constantly, a maddening, low-level torment that never ceases. And the smell. Oh, the smell. This one tunic is your only clothing. You sleep in it, you work in it, you sweat in it, you bleed in it. It is never, ever washed. Washing it would mean being naked. And you are not permitted that vulnerability. So the grime builds up. Layers of dried sweat, dirt, food stains, and bodily fluids stiffen the fabric until it could almost stand on its own. It develops a pungent, sour odor that clings to you like a shadow. You carry your own stench with you everywhere. It announces your presence before you even enter a room. The family wrinkles their noses when you pass. You smell like what you are, cheap, dirty labor. Footwear is a luxury you can only dream of. You are barefoot, always. Your feet are your foundation, and they are perpetually wrecked. The stones of the city streets are sharp and uneven, littered with broken pottery, animal droppings, and rotting food. Your soles become a landscape of cuts, bruises, and deep, embedded filth. In winter, the cold cobblestones leach the heat from your body, your toes turning numb and blue. In summer, the sun-baked stone burns them. They become tough, calloused, and cracked, but the cracks get infected, turning into oozing, painful sores that make every step a jolt of agony. Your feet are not feet, they are tools, and like all tools, they are left to rust and break in the elements. For slaves deemed a flight risk, there is an added indignity, the sacellus, a crude iron ring riveted around your neck. It's not a delicate necklace, it's a thick, heavy collar that weighs your head down. Engraved on it are the words, "Teneme quia fugi," seize me because I have run away, or simply the master's name and address. It chafes the skin on your neck raw, a permanent metallic scar. It clinks with every movement, a sound that marks you as troublesome property. It's a billboard for your past defiance, ensuring that if you ever try to run again, any citizen who sees you will know exactly who to return you to and what reward they might get. Your entire physical being is a testament to neglect. Your hair is matted and lice-ridden, cut short in uneven chunks with a rusty knife. Your nails are broken and black with dirt. The brand on your shoulder, once a searing wound, has healed into a lumpy, pinkish-white keloid scar. The letters distorted, but still legible. The chronic malnutrition from your miserable diet makes your gums bleed and your teeth loosen. Your breath is foul. Your eyes are sunken in a face perpetually smudged with grime. You are not allowed to be clean, to be whole, to be presentable. You are meant to look broken because you are broken. This state of dress or undress isn't an accident. It's policy. A well-dressed, healthy-looking slave might gain a shred of confidence, might be mistaken for a free citizen, might develop a sense of self-worth. That is a dangerous thought. Your ragged tunic, your bare, filthy feet, your stench, your collar, they are constant physical reminders of your place. They are a barrier between you and the world of humans. You look at the citizens in their clean togas and sandals, and you see a species to which you can never belong. Your own reflection, caught in a polished bronze shield or a pool of water, shows you a creature from the underworld. The clothing doesn't just cover your body, it defines your existence. It is the fabric of your despair, woven thread by itchy, miserable thread, into the very core of your being. You don't wear rags, you are the rags. Stripped of dignity, starved and clothed in rags, the human heart still searches for connection. It's your most profound weakness. In the world of a Roman slave, to love is to hand your master a weapon. To have a child is to create another piece of property. Family isn't a sanctuary. It's the most exquisite form of torture the system has to offer. It begins with a look, a shared moment of understanding with another slave, a woman named Livia, who works in the laundry. You don't speak at first. You can't. But you see the same hollowed-out look in her eyes, the same silent scream. You find ways to brush past each other in a crowded corridor, a fleeting touch of a hand, a piece of bread slipped from your meager ration into hers. This is how love blossoms in the dark, like a weed cracking through stone. It's a secret, a tiny rebellion. You manage to find stolen moments in the dead of night, whispering in the darkest corner of the kitchen garden, the scent of herbs masking your presence. Your relationship has a name, but it's not marriage. It's contubernium, a tent-mate relationship. The law doesn't recognize it. You are not husband and wife. You are two pieces of property who have been permitted to cohabit. The permission can be revoked at any moment. And then, the most dangerous thing happens. She becomes pregnant. For a few terrifyingly beautiful months, there is a secret joy. A future that isn't entirely bleak. You lay your hand on her growing stomach and feel a kick. A tiny pulse of life that belongs to you, that is yours. It's an illusion. The moment the child is born, the truth crashes down. The baby, a boy, is not your son. He is the master's slave. He is Werner, a home-born slave. The master might be pleased. He's acquired a new asset without spending a single sestertius. He might give the mother an extra ration of food for a while, but the child is his. Your son is branded with the master's mark, not by a hot iron, but by law, from his first breath. You are allowed to care for him, to love him, for a time. You watch him take his first steps in the dusty courtyard. You hear him say his first word. And every day you live with a knot of dread in your stomach, because you know it can't last. The master's daughter is getting married. She needs a dowry, or the master has cash flow problems, or he simply decides he has too many house slaves. One morning, without warning, the trader arrives. A greasy man with a wax tablet and a money pouch. He looks at your son, now a bright-eyed boy of 5. He checks his teeth, his limbs. He haggles with the master. The price is agreed upon. Your son is taken. There are no goodbyes. His screams as he's dragged away are the sound of your soul being shredded. Livia collapses, her wails echoing through the house. You are held back by other slaves, your own screams trapped in your throat. You never learn where he was sent. The mines, a farm in Sicily, another household in Rome. He is just gone. A memory, a ghost. Your love created him, and the system devoured him. This is the master's ultimate power. He doesn't just control your body, he controls your heart. He can use your family as a reward or a punishment. Be obedient, and you might be allowed to keep your child for a few years. Cause trouble, and your contubernum will be broken up, your partner sold to a different province, your child given away as a gift. You live in a constant state of emotional hostage. Every look of affection you share with Livia is a risk. Every moment of happiness with your child is shadowed by the knowledge that it could be the last. Some slaves, broken by this cycle, choose to never love at all. They build walls around their hearts so high that nothing can get in or out. They become the hollow men and women, the perfect, unfeeling machines the masters want. They work, they eat, they sleep. They do not laugh, they do not cry, they are already dead inside. Others, in an act of profound, desperate resistance, practice expositio. They leave their newborn infants out in the elements to die. It is the only way they can control their child's fate. They would rather their baby meet a quick, merciful end from exposure than a slow, grinding death in the mines or a life of repeated violation as a delicatus. It is an act of love, twisted by a system of absolute evil. So you are left with a choice. Do you love and open yourself up to a pain worse than any whip? Or do you close yourself off and become the walking corpse your master always intended you to be? There is no right answer. There is only loss. The family unit, the one thing that should be a sanctuary from the world, is transformed into its most effective prison. Your heart becomes the final and most brutal battlefield, and it's a battle you are destined to lose. Because to be a Roman slave is to understand that every person you love is just a temporary loan from the master. And he always demands repayment. The destruction of the family seeks to break your spirit, but what if your mind itself is the asset? For a small, precarious minority of slaves, it's not their backs that are valuable, but their brains. You are an educated slave. Your hell is not the field or the mine, it's a gilded cage where the chains are made of expectation, intellectual humiliation, and the constant threat of being rendered obsolete. Your mind is both your salvation and your curse. You were not captured in a village raid. You were likely born into a noble house in Greece or Asia Minor, educated in philosophy and rhetoric. Before war or piracy delivered you to the slave market, your price was astronomical. You were purchased not for brute force, but for your intellect. Your new role, pedagogus, the tutor to the master's obnoxious son, Lucius Jr. Your day begins not with a horn, but with the petulant whine of a 10-year-old who knows his word could have you flogged. You are tasked with teaching him Homer, geometry, and the finer points of oratory. He spits on the scrolls. He doodles on your wax tablets. He calls you a know-nothing Greek and runs to his mother when you try to discipline him. You must possess the knowledge of a scholar, but display the subservience of a footstool. Every lesson is a tightrope walk over a pit of rage and frustration. You are educating your own master. The privileges are real, and that's what makes it so insidious. You sleep in a small but private cell-like room, not the common ergastulum. Your tunic, while still marking you as a slave, is of a finer wool. Your food, while not the master's feast, includes more reliable rations and occasionally a piece of fruit or a cup of better wine. You're not beaten arbitrarily, but this relative comfort is a leash. You're constantly reminded that your comfort is contingent on your utility. One failed lesson, one perceived slight, one moment where the young master feels intellectually shown up, a cardinal sin, and it can all vanish. The fear is more nuanced than the fear of the whip, but it is just as potent. Your world is the library, a room filled with the scent of papyrus and cedar oil. You are the librarius, the slave secretary. Your fingers are stained with ink, not dirt. Your job is to copy texts, take dictation, manage the master's correspondence. You handle words of power, laws, contracts, love letters, and treasonous gossip. You know all the master's secrets. This knowledge is a weapon pointed at your own head. If a secret gets out, you are the first and most obvious suspect. The master might value your discretion, but he will never trust you. You are a necessary vulnerability. You spend your days surrounded by the greatest thoughts of humanity, ideas of freedom and democracy born in your own homeland, while you yourself are a living contradiction to them all. The irony is a bitter pill you swallow every time you dip your stylus. Then there are the truly specialized slaves. The medicus, the physician, whose knowledge of herbs and anatomy can save the master's life or end it with a single, accidental miscalculation. The pressure is immense. If the master's wife dies in childbirth, was it fate, or was it the physician's incompetence, or worse, his malice? The architectus, the engineer slave who designs the master's new villa. His creations will stand for centuries, but his name will be forgotten, absorbed into the master's glory. The calculator, the accountant, who manages vast sums of money he can never touch. He knows the master is bleeding money on bad investments, but to speak up is to imply the master is a fool. To stay silent is to be complicit in the eventual crash. The psychological toll is unique. You are forced to be a collaborator in your own oppression. You use your hard-won knowledge to prop up the very system that owns you. You teach the next generation of masters how to maintain their power. You design the buildings that symbolize their wealth. You heal their bodies so they can continue to command you. Your mind, the one thing you thought was truly yours, has been conscripted into the enemy's army. You are forced to respect a master who may be an intellectual dullard compared to you. You must listen to him butcher Plato and praise his own brilliance. You must nod and call his sophomoric thoughts profound. The humiliation is a slow, acid drip on your soul, and the isolation is complete. You are trapped between two worlds. The common slaves resent your privileges. They see you as the master's pet. You eat alone. You are not one of them, but you are also not one of the family. You will never recline on a couch in the triclinium. You will never be a guest. You are a tool, just a more polished one. Your education has lifted you out of the common misery, only to drop you into a lonely, anxiety-ridden purgatory. You are the smartest person in the room, and you must act like the most stupid. You have all the knowledge and absolutely no power. It's a special kind of hell, one where you are forced to be an active participant in your own dehumanization. The uneducated slave has his body broken. The educated slave is forced to break his own mind. The gilded cage of the educated slave is a psychological labyrinth, but for others, the path leads to a more visceral fate. Your strength, your aggression, or simply your bad luck has marked you for the arena. You are no longer a domestic tool or a field hand. You are entertainment. You are a gladiator. And the roar of the crowd is the sound of your impending death. You are sold to a lanista, the owner of a gladiatorial school, a ludus. This isn't a school of philosophy, it's a factory for violence. The air here is thick with the smell of sweat, blood, sand, and the sharp metallic tang of fear. The ludus is a fortress, designed to keep you in, not others out. You are thrown into a cell with other new recruits, thieves, prisoners of war, slaves who have disobeyed one too many times. You are all raw material to be hammered into weapons. The training begins immediately. Your body is not your own. It is a machine to be tuned for killing. You are worked until you collapse, building muscle, endurance, and a numb acceptance of violence. The doctor, the training master, barks commands. He doesn't care about your spirit, he cares about your form. A misplaced step, a slow block, and you feel the sting of his cane. You learn to fight with a wooden sword, a rudis, twice the weight of the real thing. Every muscle screams, every movement is pain. You are assigned a type. You are not a person, you are a classification. You become a murmillo, a heavy fighter with a large rectangular shield and a sword, your helmet topped with a fish crest. Your opponent in training is a thryax, with his small square shield and curved dagger. You learn to hate him. You must. The lanista encourages this rivalry. It makes for better fights. You are fed a special high-energy diet of barley and beans, designed to build bulk and strength. It's better food than you've ever had, but it comes with a price. You are being fattened for the slaughter. Your body is being perfected for a public, ritualized death. The day of your first games arrives. The noise begins long before you see the arena. It's a low, distant rumble that grows into a deafening roar, the sound of 50,000 Romans screaming for blood. You are marched through the dark tunnels beneath the amphitheater. The air is cool and damp. You can hear the screams from above, the clash of metal, the roar of animals. Then it's your turn. A gate creaks open and you are blinded by the sun. The heat of the sand hits you like a physical wall. The noise is overwhelming. You stand in the center of the arena, the Colosseum looming around you, a bowl of screaming, jeering faces. The editor of the games, a politician seeking votes, gives the signal. The fight begins. It's nothing like training. The sand is slippery with blood. The sun glares in your eyes. Your opponent, a retiarius with a trident and net, is not a training partner. He is trying to kill you. The crowd is a living entity, screaming for your death or your victory based on nothing more than a whim. You fight for your life. The world narrows to the arc of a trident, the flash of a net. You are wounded, a gash on your leg. The pain is sharp, clean. You fight on, driven by pure instinct. Finally, you disarm him. He stumbles and falls onto the bloody sand. You stand over him, your sword at his throat. The crowd screams, thumbs turned down. You gula! Kill him! This is the moment. You look at the man beneath you. He is just like you, a slave, a prisoner, a man who didn't ask for this. You look up at the editor. He is the one who holds your fate. If you fight well, he might grant you mercy, the missio. But if you hesitate, if you show weakness, he will order your death. Your life is a piece of political theater. The editor, sensing the crowd's mood, slowly turns his thumb upward. The man is spared. You are led out of the arena alive. You have survived. But you are not a hero. You are a slave who killed another slave for the amusement of your masters. The cheers of the crowd feel like ashes in your mouth. For the few, the very few, who survive multiple fights, there is a twisted form of fame. You become a name. Children play with clay figurines of you. Graffiti of your victories is scrawled on walls. You might even earn a little money from prizes, but you are still a slave. The lanista still owns you. Your fame is just a higher price tag, and your life is a ticking clock. Every time you enter the arena, the odds shift against you. One bad day, one faster opponent, one editor in a bad mood. That's all it takes. The worst part is the psychological transformation. To survive, you must become a monster. You must learn to turn off your humanity, to see other men as targets, as obstacles. The camaraderie in the ludus is a lie. Any one of your friends could be your opponent tomorrow, and you will be expected to kill him without hesitation. The violence seeps into your dreams. You wake up sweating, the smell of blood in your nostrils. You are a weapon, and weapons have no friends, no family, no future. You exist only for the next fight, the next roar of the crowd, the next brush with death. The arena doesn't just kill your body, it assassinates your soul long before the final blow is struck. You are a dead man walking, and the sand of the arena is just waiting to claim you. The arena teaches you to kill for a master's amusement, but the fire it lights in your belly can burn in a different direction. The constant grinding humiliation, the whippings, the shattered families, the certain miserable death, it all coalesces into a single dangerous thought: no. For a few, this thought becomes action, rebellion. It is the most dangerous game a slave can play, where the stakes are not just your life, but a terrifying, fleeting taste of something you'd almost forgotten: freedom. It starts in the gladiatorial school in Capua, the ludus of Lentulus Batiatus. You are Spartacus, or maybe you are Crixus the Gaul, or Oenomaus. You are a weapon, trained and polished. But a weapon can be turned. The plan is not born of grand strategy, but of pure, desperate necessity. Seize the kitchen tools, knives, cleavers, spits, overpower the guards. The chaos is brief, bloody, and terrifyingly efficient. You are a trained killer, and now you are killing for yourself. You burst from the gates of the ludus into the Italian night, the air tasting different, charged with a terrifying electric liberty. You are free, for now. You don't just run. You head for the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. It becomes a fortress, a symbol. The word spreads through the slave network, a whispered current of hope. They come in trickles, then floods. Not just gladiators, field slaves from the latifundia, their bodies scarred by the whip. Shepherds, miners, domestic servants who finally snapped. A vast, ragged, multilingual army of the abused. You are no longer a collection of individuals. You are a force of nature. You train them. You turn farmers into soldiers. You forge your own weapons from captured Roman equipment. You live. You raid nearby villas for supplies, and with each victory, the intoxicating feeling grows. You are winning. You are humbling Rome. And you do more than win battles. You create a fleeting, beautiful, impossible society. In your camp, there are no masters. The spoils are shared equally. A Gaul fights beside a Thracian, beside a Syrian. For the first time since your capture, you are paid for your work. You choose your own leaders. You sleep without chains. You look a man in the eye without having to lower your gaze. It is a glimpse of a world that could have been, a world without the brand on your shoulder. This is the true rebellion, not just the fighting, but the living. It is the ultimate what-if thrown in the face of the empire. But Rome does not take insults lightly. The first few legions they send are arrogant, undermanned. You annihilate them. You defeat praetors. The Senate stops laughing. They send both consuls of the year, the highest military commanders in the Republic, against you. And you defeat them too. The name Spartacus becomes a ghost that haunts the dreams of every Roman aristocrat. But with each victory, the trap closes. You are trapped in Italy. The Alps, the path to freedom in Gaul, loom. But your army, now tens of thousands strong, is confident. They want to stay, to plunder, to punish Rome. It is a fatal mistake. You turn south towards Sicily, a plan forming to find more slaves and ships. But the ships never come. A deal with Cilician pirates falls through. You are cornered in the toe of Italy's boot. And then comes Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, a man with a bottomless purse and a cold, calculating ruthlessness. He rebuilds the shattered legions and institutes decimation, the killing of 1 in every 10 men in a disobedient cohort, to instill discipline. He is not a brilliant general. He is a relentless force. He builds a wall across the entire Italian peninsula, a ditch and palisade 37 miles long to pen you in. You are a rat in a cage. The supplies run out. The hope curdles into desperation. You break through the lines in a furious, bloody night attack, but your army is splitting. Crixus and his Gauls break away and are slaughtered. You are weakened. The final battle is not a battle. It is a slaughter. Crassus's legions, fresh and countless, crash into your exhausted, starving ranks near the Silarus River. You fight like a demon, cutting your way toward Crassus himself, hoping to end it with 1 kill. You see 2 of your centurions fall. You are surrounded. You are wounded. A Roman soldier's spear finds your leg. You go down. The world dissolves into a chaos of stabbing spears and screaming men. The rebellion is over. The aftermath is Rome's final, brutal lesson. Crassus captures 6,000 of your followers. He crucifies them along the Appian Way, the main road from Capua to Rome. For nearly 130 miles, every few feet, a rotting body hangs on a cross, a public, putrefying monument to the price of defiance. The stench is unbearable, a sweet, sickly smell of death that hangs over the road for months. Travelers are forced to look, to understand. This is what happens when slaves forget their place. Your body is never found. Perhaps it was mutilated beyond recognition in the final melee. It doesn't matter. The rebellion failed. But for a few glorious years, you were not a slave. You were an army. You were free. And that memory, that fleeting taste of a life without chains, becomes the most painful wound of all, because you know in the end what you lost. Rebellion ends on a cross, a public spectacle of agony. But there is another path, a sanctioned one dangled before you like a single, shimmering jewel in the mud. It's called manumission, the formal act of being freed by your master. It's the dream that keeps you compliant, the light at the end of the tunnel. But here's the cruelest twist. The light is a carefully managed candle, and the tunnel is a circle. Freedom for a Roman slave isn't an escape. It's a transfer to a new, more complicated form of bondage. It happens suddenly, or so it seems. One day, you are scrubbing the latrine. The next, the master calls you into his study. The air smells of wax and papyrus. He's in a good mood. Maybe you saved his life. Maybe he's just feeling pious, or maybe he's found a clever financial loophole. He places his hand on your head, a symbolic gesture of release. Or perhaps he does it more formally, before a magistrate, in a fictional legal case where he declares you free. The words are spoken, "I declare this man free." Just like that. The brand on your shoulder doesn't vanish, but legally it no longer defines you. You are given the pileus, the felt cap of liberty. It sits awkwardly on your head, a symbol you've only ever seen on coins. You are a libertus, a freedman. The feeling is dizzying, unreal. You walk out of the master's, no, your patron's house. The sun feels different. The air feels different. You can go left or right. No one commands you. For the first time in decades, your time is your own. You find a tiny, single-room apartment, a cellar, in a stinking insula. It's yours. You lie on the thin straw mattress and stare at the cracked ceiling, and you weep. The silence is the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. No chains, no whip cracks, no pre-dawn horn. This is it. Freedom. But by the next morning, the reality of your new life begins to crystallize. The first thing you feel is not joy, but a profound, terrifying weight. You are responsible for yourself. No one feeds you. No one gives you a roof, however leaky. You need money. Now. And what can you do? Your entire life has been a lesson in obedience, not ambition. You were a field slave, a domestic, maybe a scribe. Your skills are the skills of a servant, so you do the only thing you know how to do. You open a small stall in the market selling simple pottery, or you hire yourself out as a day laborer, waiting in the forum at dawn, hoping a builder will pick you from the crowd. The work is brutal, the pay meager. You are free, but you are now drowning in a different kind of desperation, the desperation of poverty. And your old master, your patronus, is still there. He is the shadow that follows you everywhere. The relationship of obsequium and officium, respect and duty, legally binds you to him. You owe him a certain number of days of work each year for free. He can call on you for favors, for political support, for money. If you die without a legitimate heir, he inherits a chunk of your property. He is your eternal father figure, and you are his eternal grateful child. Displease him, and he can drag you back into court, challenging your freed status on some technicality. Your freedom is a loan, not a gift, and the interest is your perpetual subservience. Then there's the social stain. You are free, but you are not a citizen in the same way a born free Roman is. You cannot hold high political office. You cannot marry into the senatorial class. The elite look down on you as a jumped-up slave, no matter how much money you make. That brand on your shoulder might be legally meaningless, but it's socially indelible. People whisper behind your back. That's Lucius's freedman, used to empty his chamber pot. Your children will be full citizens, but they will carry the slight stigma of your past. You have climbed out of the pit, but the smell of it lingers on you and your bloodline for generations. For some freedmen, particularly the clever and the ruthless, this system offers a path to incredible wealth. They become bankers, merchants, contractors. They build fortunes that dwarf their old masters. They build tombs for themselves, larger than his house. But even then, they are trapped. Their wealth is a performance, a desperate attempt to scream, "I am somebody," to a world that will always see them as a former slave. They are the richest men in Rome, and yet they are still defined by the man who once owned them. It's the ultimate gilded cage. So you stand in your tiny stall, selling your cheap pots, and you watch the citizens stroll by. You are free. You can vote. You can own property. You will not be whipped today, but you are exhausted, poor, and still tied to the man who branded you. The dream of freedom was a landscape of open fields and boundless opportunity. The reality is a cramped, smelly street and a lifetime of debt, social, financial, and psychological, to the very system that broke you. You traded the certainty of servitude for the anxiety of a second-class existence. The chains are gone, but the weight remains. You are free, sort of. And somehow, that sort of is the most painful part of all. The cap of liberty sits on your head, a felt symbol of a promise half kept. You are a freedman, a libertus. You have escaped the absolute power of the master, but you have landed in the murky, stratified waters of Roman society, where the current is always pushing you back toward the shore of your past. Your new life is a tightrope walk over a chasm of prejudice, obligation, and the ghost of the brand you will always carry. The first thing you learn is the word infamia. It doesn't mean infamous in the way we think. It's a legal and social stain, a loss of reputation that clings to you because of your past life. As a freedman, you bear this mark. It means you are barred from holding any major public office. You cannot become a senator, a consul, a praetor. The path to real political power is bricked up before you. You cannot serve in the legions, the engine of Roman prestige. You are a citizen, but you are a citizen with an asterisk next to your name, a permanent footnote reminding everyone of what you were. The elite, the nobiles, look through you. Their sons, whom you might have tutored, now dismiss you with a curl of the lip. You have the vote, but your voice is a whisper in a thunderstorm. Your social life is a minefield. You want to join a collegium, a social or trade guild, to find community, to network, but many of the older, more prestigious guilds won't have you. You are tainted. When you walk into the baths, you see the subtle shifts in posture. Freeborn citizens might move slightly away. Their conversations dip when you approach. You hear the muttered word libertinus, a slightly more derogatory term for freedmen. You are invited to dinners, but you are seated at the lowest couch, furthest from the host. You are a novelty, a testament to your patron's generosity, but you are not an equal. Every interaction is layered with the unspoken question, yes, but what were you before? Then there is the economic ceiling. You can own property, yes, you can run a business. And some freedmen do become astonishingly wealthy, but the old money, the landed aristocracy, views you as a vulgar upstart. Your wealth comes from trade, from banking, from grubby hands-on work, the very work the elite profess to despise while relying on it completely. If you try to buy a large estate, you might be outbid by a patrician who would rather see the land lie fallow than in the hands of a former slave. Your success is tolerated, but never truly respected. It's seen as a fluke, an accident, rather than the product of your own grit and intelligence, which it undoubtedly is. Your family life is forever complicated. You can now legally marry, and your children will be full Roman citizens with no legal disabilities. This is your greatest legacy. But whom can you marry? Another freedman or freedwoman? That reinforces your social isolation, a freeborn woman from a poor family. Her relatives might still consider it a disgrace, a stain on their bloodline, however thin that bloodline might be. And your children, your proudest achievement, will still carry the subtle stigma of your past. They might be called Libertini Filius, son of a freedman. It's a label that can dog them in their careers, in their social ambitions. Your freedom has given them a future, but you have also passed on a burden, and through it all, there is your Patronus. He is the sun around which your planetary existence orbits. You are legally required to show him respect, to perform days of labor for him, to include him in your will. But the unofficial demands are worse. He expects you to support him politically. He expects you to be a visible, grateful monument to his benevolence. He might ask for a loan he has no intention of repaying. If you refuse, he can make your life miserable. He can spread rumors, call in favors to ruin your business, or even challenge your freedom in court. Your entire social and economic survival is often tethered to keeping this one man happy. You traded one master for another, just one who is now at a slightly more polite distance. So you navigate this world, a ghost in two realms. You are too free to belong with the slaves you left behind, who may now resent you. And you are too tainted by slavery to be fully accepted by the free-born citizens you walk among. You are perpetually in between, a living reminder of a system that needs the idea of upward mobility to function, but despises the reality of it. The dream was to become a full Roman. The reality is that you have become a permanent resident of the outskirts of Romanness, looking in at a feast for which you will never receive a proper invitation. The cage door is open, but you are still sitting inside because you've forgotten what the sky truly looks like, and the world outside the bars is just a different kind of prison. The social ostracism of the freedman is a subtle poison, but its source is a blunt legal instrument. The entire towering edifice of Roman slavery rests on a single, cold, legal premise, one written in ink, not blood, but which spills oceans of it: the law. It's not a shield to protect you. It's the master's favorite weapon, a finely honed blade that carves away your humanity clause by clause, statute by statute. Your suffering isn't just permitted by the law, it is mandated by it. The foundational principle is simple, stark, and absolute. You are not a person. You are res, a thing, chattel, property. The Roman jurist Gaius, in his Institutes, lays it out with chilling clarity. The principal distinction in the law of persons is this, that all men are either free or slaves. There is no middle ground. You are categorized under the law of property alongside cattle, tables, and land. This isn't a metaphor, this is your legal reality. Your body, your labor, your children, your very breath, all of it is an asset on your master's balance sheet. If someone injures you, the legal action is not for assault against you. It is an action for property damage against your master. The compensation is for his financial loss, the medical bills, the lost workdays, not for your pain and suffering. Your agony has a price, and it's usually quite low. Because you are a thing, you have what is called capitis diminutio minima, the smallest possible legal capacity. It means you have no legal personality. You cannot own property. You cannot enter into a contract. You cannot borrow money. You cannot bring a lawsuit in your own name. If you are injured by a third party, you cannot sue them. If you are cheated in a deal, you have no recourse. You are a legal ghost. Your will, your desires, your intentions, in the eyes of the law, they do not exist. Your only legal function is to be the object of your master's will. The law systematically dismantles every human bond you might form. Marriage? Impossible. Any union you have is contubernium, a tent-mate arrangement with no legal standing. Your master can break it up at any time by selling your partner or your children to another province. Your family has no more legal cohesion than a matched set of chairs. If you are sexually assaulted, it is not considered rape, stuprum, against you. It is, again, damage to your master's property. The law is concerned that his asset has been violated, not that you have been. Your body is a vessel for his value, and nothing more. Then there is the law of testimony. Your word in a court of law is considered inherently untrustworthy. You are a liar by legal definition. The only way your testimony can be admitted is under torture. The thinking, as explained by orators like Cicero, is that a slave, fearing their master's wrath, would naturally lie to protect them. But under the pain of the rack or the whip, the truth would be forced out. So if your master is on trial, you could be seized by the court and tortured to provide evidence against him. Your screams become jurisprudence. This was not a rare occurrence. It was a standard legal procedure. The law doesn't just permit your torture, it requires it for your voice to be heard. Your pain is a tool for judicial truth. But what about the famous laws that supposedly protected slaves? The Lex Patronia, or Emperor Claudius's decree that 6 slaves abandoned on the island in the Tiber should be freed. These are often trotted out as examples of Roman humanity. Look closer. The Lex Patronia didn't forbid masters from throwing slaves to the beasts in the arena. It just forbade them from doing it without a judge's consent. It added a layer of bureaucracy, not morality. Claudius's law didn't make it illegal to abandon a dying slave. It just said if the slave recovered, they were free. The master faced no punishment. The purpose of these laws was not to protect slaves, but to protect the institution of slavery from the worst excesses of individual masters who were destroying valuable property out of sheer caprice. It was about economic efficiency, not compassion. You were a depreciating asset, and the state had an interest in preventing wanton destruction of capital. The ultimate legal power was the Dominica Potestas, the master's power. This included the feared ius vitae nescisque, the right of life and death. In the early republic, this was absolute. A master could kill you for any reason or none at all. Later, under the emperors, this was theoretically curtailed. Hadrian, for example, exiled a woman who had killed her slave for no reason. But these were exceptions, not the rule. Enforcement was virtually non-existent. How would a slave report the crime? Who would believe them? The law existed to give the appearance of restraint, while the culture of absolute power remained untouched. In practice, the master's whip was the only law that mattered within the walls of his home. So you live inside this legal framework. It is the air you breathe, the ground you walk on. Every time you're beaten, the law is there, nodding in approval. Every time your child is sold, the law is the one handing over the bill of sale. Every time you are raped, the law is the one calculating the depreciation of your master's property. It is a system designed with cold, brutal logic to create and maintain a class of subhumans. The brand on your shoulder is just the physical manifestation of the brand the law has seared onto your soul. You aren't just owned by a master. You are imprisoned by a philosophy, one written in scrolls and enforced by magistrates, that has decided calmly and rationally that you are a thing. And the most terrifying part of the law is its quiet, impeccable, and utterly ruthless logic. The law owns your body. The master owns your time, but the final, most intimate conquest is of your mind. The physical chains, the hunger, the whippings, they are all external. The psychological toll is the internal rot, the slow, silent disintegration of the self. This is where they don't just break you, they remake you in the image of a slave. Your own mind becomes the final prison, and you are both the warden and the inmate. It begins with the shattering of your identity, the person you were, the farmer, the parent, the craftsman with a name and a history. That person is dead. The law has killed them. In their place is a number, a brand, a function. You are the Gallic field hand. You are the scribe. You are the one who empties the pots. You repeat your function to yourself until it overwrites your memories. The face you see in a bucket of water is a stranger's face, hollow-eyed and smudged with dirt. You forget the sound of your mother's voice. You forget the songs of your homeland. The past becomes a dream, a painful, distant country you can never return to. Your identity is a hollowed-out gourd, ready to be filled with whatever your master pours into it. To survive, you must perform an emotional auto-amputation. You learn to sever the connection between feeling and action. The whip falls, and you feel the pain. But you must not show it. Your child is sold, and you feel the grief like a physical blow to the chest, but you must not scream. You must stand still. Your face must be a mask of stone. This isn't strength, it's a profound disassociation. You learn to leave your body, to float somewhere above it, watching the thing that is you being beaten, humiliated, worked to exhaustion. You become a spectator to your own life. The emotions are still there, boiling and churning underneath, but they have nowhere to go. They turn inward, festering into a silent, chronic despair that manifests as a constant low-grade terror, a feeling that at any moment the floor will give way. This constant state of hypervigilance rewires your brain. You are always listening, always watching. The sound of a particular footstep, the master's, triggers a jolt of adrenaline. The tone of a voice tells you if it's going to be a bad day. You become an expert in reading the slightest flicker of mood, the most subtle shift in the atmosphere. You are a seismograph for human caprice. This skill keeps you alive, but it comes at a cost. You can never relax. Your nerves are permanently frayed. You startle at sudden noises. You sleep fitfully, your dreams haunted by falling and chasing. You are always, exhaustingly, on. For some, the psyche rebels in different ways. The constant humiliation and powerlessness breed a festering, silent rage. But with no outlet, this rage has nowhere to go. It can't be directed at the master. That's suicide. So it turns on the only available targets, yourself or other slaves. You might deliberately work slower, a tiny, futile act of sabotage that only earns you a beating. Or you might become the bully, the slave who aligns with the overseer, tormenting the others to carve out a tiny sliver of power for yourself. The master's system is so effective, it turns you into its enforcer, making you complicit in your own oppression. You become a snake eating its own tail. Then there is the death of hope. In the beginning you might dream of escape, of rebellion, of manumission, but as the years grind on, as you see every attempt at resistance crushed, as you see freedmen living their half-lives, the hope itself becomes a source of pain. It's a taunt, so you kill it. You kill. You learn not to think about tomorrow, because tomorrow will be exactly like today. And yesterday was a nightmare you barely survived. You live in a perpetual, grinding present. The future ceases to exist. Ambition is a luxury for people who own themselves. Your world becomes very, very small, from your pallet to your workstation and back again. The horizon is a myth. The final stage is what the psychologists would later call learned helplessness. You stop trying. Why bother? Your efforts yield no reward. Your resistance brings only pain. Your hopes are dashed. You become passive. You wait for commands. You move only when pushed. The spark of will that makes a human being is extinguished. You are a shell, a perfect, obedient automaton. This is what the master has always wanted, not just your labor, but your soul. He has won. The psychological conquest is complete. You are now the perfect slave, not because you are forced to be, but because you can no longer even conceive of being anything else. The person you were is not just dead, they are erased. The brand is no longer on your shoulder, it's etched onto your neurons. And that is a wound that never ever heals. This is the true lasting horror of Roman slavery. It wasn't just about owning a person's body, it was about systematically dismantling a human mind and rebuilding it into something that would willingly, silently enslave itself. The psychological dismantling of the Roman slave is a unique kind of horror, but it didn't exist in a historical vacuum. To truly understand the specific, grinding misery of the Roman system, you have to place it beside other machines of human bondage. The Romans didn't invent slavery, but they industrialized it, systemized it, and built a world upon it with an efficiency that still chills the blood. First, let's talk scale. The Roman system was a leviathan. At its height, historians estimate slaves made up between 20–30% of the entire population of Italy. That's 1 in every 3 or 4 people you passed in the street was owned. In the city of Rome itself, maybe 400,000 slaves lived alongside 1 million free citizens. This wasn't a side industry, it was the engine of the entire economy. From Spanish mines to Sicilian grain fields, the empire ran on slave muscle. Compare this to ancient Athens, where the slave population was significant, but perhaps only 1/3 of the total. In Rome, slavery wasn't an aspect of society. It was the foundation. You weren't an exception, you were the rule. The sheer, crushing normalcy of your misery was part of the torture. Now let's look at American chattel slavery, the comparison that often springs to mind. On the surface, similarities abound: the legal status as property, the brutality, the tearing apart of families. But the core difference is profound and grotesque. American slavery was largely racialized. It created a permanent, visible underclass based on skin color. Your status was, in most cases, inherited and unchangeable. In Rome, slavery was not about race. You could be a Gaul, a Greek, a Syrian, a Nubian. Anyone could become a slave. And crucially, anyone could, theoretically, cease to be one. Manumission was a real, if flawed, possibility. This created a bizarre psychological dynamic. It wasn't a system saying you are inherently inferior. It was a system saying you have lost, you are conquered. This could happen to anyone. It was a slavery of circumstance, not a slavery of inherent identity. Both are monstrous, but the Roman model added a layer of terrifying randomness. The free Roman citizen could look at you and think, "There, but for the grace of Fortuna, go I." And then he'd have you whipped for spilling his wine. Then there were systems like the Spartan helots. The helots were an entire enslaved Greek population, owned by the Spartan state and tied to the land. Their existence was arguably even more precarious than a Roman slave's. The Spartans formally declared war on them every year, giving any citizen a legal license to kill a helot without cause. This was state-sanctioned terrorism to keep them cowed. Roman slavery was less openly genocidal, but in some ways more insidious. The Romans didn't want to exterminate you, they wanted to use you up. A helot was a permanent feature of the landscape, to be controlled. A Roman slave in the mines was a disposable battery, to be drained and discarded. The Roman system was colder, more economically rational, and in its own way, just as deadly. What about other ancient systems, like the Babylonian code of Hammurabi? Debt slavery was common there. You could sell yourself or your family into servitude to pay a debt, but it was often for a limited term. There were pathways out. In Rome, you were almost always a slave for life, and your children after you. The Romans took the concept and stripped away the time limits, creating a perpetual, hereditary underclass. They perfected the art of making bondage intergenerational. The legacy of Roman slavery is a ghost that haunts the modern world. Its legal framework, meticulously crafted by jurists, provided the blueprint for slave codes in the Americas. The Roman concept of absolute property rights over a human being was the precedent that plantation lawyers would later cite. The Roman practice of using slaves for every conceivable task, from intellectual labor to backbreaking physical toil, created a template for a fully slave-based economy. The sheer, banal bureaucracy of it all, the way it was woven into tax law, business contracts and inheritance, makes it feel terrifyingly modern. But perhaps the most enduring and chilling legacy is the psychology of the master class. The Romans, through their literature, their letters, their graffiti, show us a people utterly comfortable with extreme, casual cruelty. They could write tender poetry and then go watch a man be torn apart by beasts for entertainment. They could philosophize about justice and then have a slave tortured for burning dinner. This compartmentalization, this ability to hold humanity and brutality in separate, unconnected parts of the mind, is a virus that has infected societies ever since. The Roman system proved that civilization and barbarism are not opposites. They can be, and often are, partners. The Roman slave's life was awful, not in spite of the civilization around him, but because of it. It was an awfulness built with laws, organized with ledgers, and celebrated in marble. And that is a legacy that should make us all look at our own world and the invisible chains within it with a much more suspicious eye. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that might make you a little uncomfortable, but trust me, it's a conversation we absolutely need to have. We're talking about slavery, but not just the ancient kind you read about in textbooks. We're exploring how the ghost of Roman slavery, its fundamental blueprint for exploitation, continues to whisper through the very fabric of our modern world. It's a chilling thought, but stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see everything. You see, the Roman system of slavery, with its brutal efficiency, didn't just vanish into thin air when the empire fell. Oh no. Its core principles, its logic of maximum extraction for minimum cost, they simply got repurposed, rebranded, and dare I say perfected for new eras, new masters, and new insidious forms of chains. The screams from the ancient quarries and the dreaded ergastulum have faded, thankfully. But if you listen really closely, you can still hear their echo in the silence of our own complacency. Let's take a walk, not through ancient Rome, but into a modern prison. The smell is different, sure, antiseptic instead of sweat and straw, but the psychology, the absolute control, is hauntingly familiar. That stripping of personal identity, replaced by a number instead of a name, the arbitrary punishments, the forced, often meaningless labor for little to no pay, the legal frameworks that can render a human being, for all intents and purposes, a non-person with diminished rights. Sound familiar? The Roman master's absolute power, the Dominica Potestas. It hasn't disappeared. It's been transferred, often to the state. The branding iron is gone, but the barcode on a wristband. The ergastulum isn't a dark pit anymore. It's a concrete cell block. The system isn't really about rehabilitation for many. It's about containment and control. The very same principles that fueled the massive Roman estates, the latifundia, worked by thousands of slaves. We haven't abolished slavery. We've, in many ways, just bureaucratized it. Now let's talk about those everyday conveniences we all love. You tap on your phone, order a cheap shirt, and it's delivered to your door tomorrow. It's magic, right? But here's the thing. You don't see the hands that picked the cotton, dyed the fabric, stitched the seams. They're often in a distant country, working in conditions that a Roman villicus, the overseer, would recognize instantly. Endless hours, punitive fines, armed guards, crippling debt bondage. These workers aren't legally owned, no, but they are economically shackled. They're paid just enough to survive, but never enough to escape. Their passports are held. Their movements are monitored. This isn't an ancient mill, a pistrinum. It's a globalized industrial version. The Roman system was confined by the limits of its empire. Ours spans the entire globe, hidden behind corporate logos and sophisticated terms of service. You, me, we're all participating in this system right now. The Roman consumer enjoyed cheap grain harvested by slaves. We enjoy cheap electronics and clothing assembled by them too. And what about the psychological toll? Roman slaves suffered from disassociation, learned helplessness, the crushing of their very spirit. Does that echo anywhere today? Look at the modern gig economy. That relentless pressure to be always available, the algorithmic management that dehumanizes you into a data point, the isolation, the precarious existence without safety nets. It creates the same gnawing anxiety, the same hypervigilance, that feeling of being a completely replaceable cog in a massive machine you cannot control. Your master isn't a man in a toga anymore. It's a fluctuating market and an unforgiving app. But the feeling of powerlessness, that's the same, the slow erosion of your spirit. Absolutely identical. Perhaps the most direct and horrifying echo is in human trafficking. These victims are the damnati of our age. They are in brothels, in clandestine workshops, in agricultural fields, living and dying in the shadows, unseen and unheard by most. They aren't branded with a hot iron, but with fear, with insurmountable debt, and with profound psychological manipulation. They are the living, breathing proof that the Roman model of treating humans as disposable commodities is not some dusty relic from the past. No, it's a thriving, multi-billion-dollar global industry. The bustling slave markets of Rome have moved online, hidden on the dark web, but the fundamental transaction is chillingly identical. One human being transferring ownership or control of another for a price. So, after all this, what have we really learned? On the surface, yes, we've outlawed the institution of slavery. We have declarations of human rights. We pay ample lip service to freedom and dignity. But the underlying mechanics, the exploitation of desperation, the legal loopholes that allow it, the willful blindness of the consumer, the dehumanization of the other, these are as Roman as the Colosseum itself. We've changed the vocabulary, we've updated the packaging, but the grammar of oppression, its underlying structure, remains stubbornly the same. We tell ourselves we are more enlightened, more advanced, but our systems still run on that same brutal logic of maximum extraction for minimum cost, whether the resource is olive oil, silver, or human labor. The story of the Roman slave isn't just a history lesson, it is a profound, urgent warning. It shows us how easily a supposedly civilized society can construct a hell for a segment of its population and then have the audacity to call it progress. It shows us how law, something meant to protect, can be twisted and perverted to justify atrocity. And it shows us how our human capacity for compassion can be systematically switched off, dulled, in the name of profit and convenience. The Roman slave's life was awful, not because the Romans were uniquely evil. It was awful because they were human. And we, my friends, are human too. Tonight, when you turn off the lights and lie down in your clean bed, in your temperature-controlled room, with a full stomach and the freedom to get up and walk out your front door anytime you wish, please take a moment. Remember the ghost of the Roman slave. Remember the imagined feel of the brand, the crushing weight of the chain, the bitter taste of the gruel, the heartbreaking sound of a child being taken away. Remember that the line between their world and ours is not as thick, not as uncrossable as we'd like to believe. It's a line drawn in sand, and the relentless tide of human greed is always, always rising. The story of the Roman slave is over, but the story of us and what we choose to tolerate is still being written. Let's make sure it's a story we can truly be proud of. If this journey into the dark heart of the ancient world has shifted your perspective, if it's made you look at our own world, our modern systems, a little differently, then please do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. But more importantly, take that feeling of unease, that spark of awareness, out into the world with you. Be a little more questioning, be a little less complacent, because as the saying goes, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And the echo of the Roman whip is a rhythm we should all be working to break for good. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.